Hello sausages, it's me here. I've done a few clicks as you can see. I'm making a little video about independent living in the future, and this is based on a presentation that I did for Merton Seal a few weeks ago where they asked me to come and talk about independent living in the future. And you know, the current debate is very depressing because we're in a pretty bad place in terms of being able to live our lives as independently as possible. And, that whole sentence of independent as possible kind of just puts limits on our lives. And the biggest limit is because the current climate is talking all about, being cared for and looked after. And the media obviously is reflecting the crisis that social care is in. And as a result, independent living is getting pushed further and further down the agenda. And political parties are picking up care as a new banner to be waved and saying, oh, we're all going to throw money in it and we're going to improve it. But actually, they're doing it without listening to disabled people. They're doing it without listening to our voices. And we want independent living. We always have done. We've been talking about this for the last 30 or 40 years. And we had it for a little while through the Independent Living Fund, and it was taken away. So I didn't want this presentation to be too depressing, but I wanted it to be clarifying what the difference is between the current debate around care and the difference that is to independent living, and why independent living is so important to us. Obviously, with it being independent living in the future, I went off on a tangent and got in my space rocket because that's where the future lays. Obviously, we get in our space rocket and we get away from Brexit and all the politicians who've got it wrong at the moment, and we go to a world, we go to another planet. And obviously I went a bit crazy with the graphics, but it was quite good fun. But I thought I want to be in a world where I'm respected and I'm valued and I belong. And that's what independent living really is about. And I thought, hold on, that's the planet where I already live. So I got back in my spaceship, and that's where I am now. I'm back here, and this is what we're fighting for. Respect, to be valued, and to live in a society where we all belong. And I think those three things are things that we all want. So independent living is about something that I believe affects us all and is something that we would all want. And it's not just about disabled people, actually. It's about us all. Now, really, when we think about independent living in the future, the response by local authorities and probably a lot of politicians is about how we can save money to get it, further. And we use technology to save money. And technology does play a role in our lives, a really, really important role. And, you will know that I love technology. But the kind of experience that we've had around our lives and independent living has been where technology is used, it's imposed on us. It's been used to save money. It's primarily been around, because we can't have somebody live with us all the time. What do we do when they're in a real emergency? And here's a little button that you can press, and someone will come and get to you. And it's all quite a reactive kind of technology debate. And essentially it ends up in local authorities cutting people's packages because they think, now that I've got a button I can press, I can do that. It will save having a PA around if I need them. And actually, technology is just imposed to save money. And of course, technology will help us, but it'll be when we see technology as everybody else does. Technology, that you use in your lives is there to help you, and it's not imposed. You choose it. You buy the phone you want, you get the Wi-Fi system you want, and you use technology as you find it useful. And it creates a more accessible environment, and that's what we all want. We decide when we want it, how we want it, and when we want to use it. For me, there's a step further in technology in that I know technology can be bespoke, and technology is best when it's co-designed. So that means disabled and non-disabled people working on bespoke stuff rather than in imposing this big red button that we've all got around our necks, literally. A bit like the Telecaster. So after I had a little rant about technology, I moved on to the current debate. And the current debate is obviously rooted in the national media crisis in social care. And all the political parties are waving their banners about it and saying they've got the answers, of course, without listening to disabled people. And they're all, saying, they're going, like the National Health Service, we want a National Care Service. But we all know that the care service is broken. Why would you just stick glue and just do something that's based on traditional services that don't work? The other thing is that this National Care Service is currently only, going to be free for people over 65. And so young disabled people and disabled people working age, who could contribute and be a part of and play a part in our society are all being missed out. And the National Care Service is being done to us rather than with us. It's not, our language. Our language is around independence and autonomy. It's about being able to have freedom and responsibility and choice and control. It's about freedom to be spontaneous and live our lives. And the current debate doesn't reflect that. The current debate about social care is all very, very patronising. We're not being seen as an issue of equality. We're being seen as a problem to be fixed. Being looked after and being vulnerable. Being the most vulnerable in society who we all want to look after. And they do that by making sure we get up, making sure we're being fed, and making sure we're being put to bed and medicated. And, it's all tasks. And of course that costs money, and we can equate that with hours and money. And we can do that for as cheaply as possible. So the staff that do it, the PAs and the agency workers, get paid minimum wage or even less sometimes actually. And they've all got to do it in a very, very short and specific time. And all we'll do is we'll throw money at that so that works a bit better. And it works with the health service. And National Health and Care will amalgamate and work together. And of course, what that is doing right at this moment is just creating this ping-pong game of table tennis that all the politicians are loving, and the poor old National Health Service and the care system are currently battling. I've got a real experience of that in that, I've been asked to consider going on to a continuing healthcare budget, and yet, looking at the criteria, most of my issues are around social care, and I'm being asked to play this ping pong game just so that people can pass the buck and not have to worry about my independent living needs. Independent living is about choice and control and self-determination. It's also about citizenship. It's about me being able to contribute to my community and participate. And therefore it's about our interdependence. It's about how we live together as equals. It's about how we live together in our society and the society we choose and live. It's about our family life. It's about flexibility and being able to make choices and take responsibility for ourselves, take risks. And for me, that's about creativity. I'm a creative person, and I see ways in which, my independent living is curtailed and limited by having once a year to fit in this box, which is about how long does it take me to have a wee, and how long does it take me on average to have a shower, and then that all gets fitted into a box, and then I have to justify why it takes longer one day and shorter the next. That is not independent living. Independent living is social change. Independent living is about choice and control, and it's about society understanding the social model of disability. It's about society recognising that independent living is about equality and access. It's about choice, freedom, control. Valuing our lived experience. It's about our rights. And actually, it's something that we've already got enshrined in legislation. It's just politicians have forgotten about it. And, it's more convenient to talk about Brexit and distract us from the real social issues that are going on in our society. Independent living is not about how much I can do and cheaply for myself, but how much control and choice I get. So we want an alternative, and that alternative is not being talked about in the media. The politicians are really keen to go on and talk about what's best for us. They're really keen to go on the Victoria Derbyshire show and say, we've got the solution, which is a free national care service. We don't want that. Disabled people have come together and looked at our real lived experience. We've looked at what's worked in the past. We've gone back 30 years in social policy, and actually any of the alternatives that political parties are currently offering are only taking us back 10 years to what we had in the past. And we want to go back and have all the things we had 10 years ago, like an independent living fund. And I've let go of the word independent living fund. But this is the new independent living fund. It's a system called a National Independent Living Support System. It's a vision where disabled people have equal rights to live in the community with choice equal to others, and to be fully included and able to participate by having a choice of housing, by having a range of services in home, out home, in the community that we choose, that we create, that we access. And also that we have services that are available to all people, whether they're disabled or not, and they're responsive to our needs. Just so you know, I've not made this up, it's, enshrined in a set of legislation that we've all signed up to. And it's enshrined in, our legislation in England. But all politicians have kind of forgotten it currently because they're interested in talking about, don't get me going. Anyway, so this alternative is there and we've experienced it. I've seen the promised land, to quote a great freedom fighter. And we are fighting for freedom, don't get me wrong. We are in crisis and there are disabled people who are living terrible, hideous lives, which is rooted in poverty, actually, and austerity. And I'm really sorry if that sounds like, I'm dragging in things, but it's actually reality. And disabled people are worried about how much it costs them to have a cooked meal instead of a sandwich, and how much it will cost if I'm got a cold because I'll need someone to wipe my nose for me. We want an alternative, and that alternative is around a national independent living system or service or support, whatever you want to call it, but it's co-created with disabled people. So politicians, you've got to have us around the table. You've got to listen to the voice of disabled people and our experience, because we know what works. A national independent living system is not is not discriminatory. It's got, anti-discrimination means, it's not based on our age, race, sexuality, gender, religion, our lifestyle choices. Independent living is about our lifestyle choices and how we choose to live our lives. The bit that is a political debate also, is that this would be funded through general taxation. It can't be left to a local authority to decide, whether it's dustbins or I get up is the kind of choice they make. It can't be arbitrary like that and local. What if I want to move to another bit of the community? What if I want to live in another county? All those issues mean it's a postcode lottery and we're all getting treated equally badly at the moment. So we take it away from local authorities and it would be funded through general taxation. And when we say it's managed by central government, we mean a central government that has disabled people at the table. So disabled people will be managing it centrally. It would be led by disabled people, just like the Independent Living Fund was. And it would be delivered locally by disabled people's organisations. In other words, delivered by the people using the services, because we know that works a lot better. So we've got some answers and we've got some solutions. For those academics, here's a lot of reading that you could do about independent living to know that independent living is different from social care, and independent living is actually what we need in our lives. And we believe independent living would work for the whole community, for the whole society, because it's so responsive, it's so flexible, and it's so respectful of our rights as equals. Whether we're old, young, disabled, non-disabled, it's about our rights as human beings to live a life that's full. So ladies and gentlemen, that was what it was all about. I've tried to encapsulate it on a video. I don't know how that works. Do let me know. But do go and Google independent living. If you Google ROFA, the Reclaiming Our Futures Alliance, you'll be able to see a lot more about the National Independent Living Support System and also Disabled People Against Cuts. But, this is all rooted in the voice of disabled people. And if you're the media, please, don't just leave it as a social care crisis. Go and talk to disabled people about what the solution is, because we hold the solution if people would just listen to our voices. Thank you. Big up. Thank you, sausages.